Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico coming with my fourth mock draft. We have a fifth and final one coming after this, the most realistic scenario. But today, this is my dream case scenario mock draft. Full 7 rounds, no trades, comp and analysis for each pick, pros and cons as well. Let's go put together a Super Bowl contender, man. Let's get it. Alright, so like before the intro I explained, this is a dream case scenario. This is going to be fairly realistic, but just highly unlikely. So this is exactly what I would love to happen. This is my 11 out of 10 A++ grade for a Washington draft next week. So it's not like super unrealistic like Kyle Pitts in the second round or Trevor Lawrence at 19 and things like that, but it's just unlikely that a lot of these things happen. It's improbable, but it's also not impossible. Again, I'm not saying Kyle Pitts in the second. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence at 19. I'm not going that far, but this is the dream case scenario. And this mock draft is more so to reflect a lot of my favorite guys in the draft, a lot of guys that I want to put people on to, and I hope that Washington gets. I really hope we're able to get at least a few of these guys because I really believe in these guys, and you'll see how much I believe in them and how I feel about them based on the comps that I give you as we go down each pick. Alright, so y'all already know, man. First up, 19th overall pick, our one pick in the first round. I have us taking quarterback Trey Lance. Y'all already know this is my guy. Been team Trey Lance since September, October. And I don't even have to break him down as far as pros and cons because he's literally going into his ceiling comp a faster Josh Allen. Not gonna really break down his pros and cons. We're just gonna go from Josh Allen and work from there. We're going straight to the comp. So he's basically a more polished Josh Allen in the way that he has a better IQ, decision making, running a pro style offense as in IDing potential blitzers, changing protections at the line of scrimmage, and also operating out of the I formation and single back and running a lot of play action out of those formations more than a Josh Allen coming out of college. He's more accurate and a better throw on the run than Josh Allen coming out of college. He just has slightly less arm strength, but at the same time, more running speed and agility. But again, this is as close as a comp you're going to get for a Trey Lance as far as his build, as far as his play style and things like that. Josh Allen is literally as close as you're going to get. It's not very close, but the best way to describe and to win somebody over with Trey Lance's game is to start with Josh Allen and go from there. And I'm projecting a similar play style and usage at the NFL level for Trey Lance in comparison to a Josh Allen. Just imagine Josh Allen on this team. Super Bowl contender, right? Point blank period. The Trey Lance doesn't go through progressions rumor is definitely false. But Josh Allen, I can admit, was more advanced in that department coming out of college than Trey Lance, but that's also because he was asked to do it more. Just because Trey Lance wasn't asked to do it more in college doesn't mean he can't do it more. That was just part of Josh Allen's offense. Just like how Josh Allen is really not fair to judge him based on what he was coming out of college, not being able to run I formation, not being able to ID potential blitzers and change protections at the line of scrimmage and things like that because he just wasn't asked to do it in college. Same thing with Trey Lance as far as going through progressions. Again, he's done it, but he just didn't do it to the capacity of a Josh Allen or a lot of other quarterbacks coming out of this draft. And I feel like Trey Lance's floor is way higher than a lot of people think it is or give him credit for. Josh Allen was horrible his rookie season at throwing the ball. One of the most inaccurate quarterbacks I've ever seen in the NFL. It was terrible, but they were still winning games day one with him starting and running the ball himself a lot because they had a great defense, check, good run game, check, and you can easily argue our 2021 defense, our 2021 run game, our 2021 receiving core, and our 2021 offensive line are better, if not way better, than what the 2018 Bills had around Josh Allen. I feel like Trey Lance is a better prospect coming out, and I feel like the 2021 and 2022 Burgundy and Gold are a better team than what Josh Allen had in 2018, period. Better quarterback, better team, better situation, everything. But luckily for us, he wouldn't have to even start year one. Unless he just literally looks like 2020 Josh Allen, not 2018, 2020 Josh Allen in training camp. And even then, he still may not start. at least for a while, because we have Ryan Fitzpatrick and Taylor Heinicke, and if they feel like he needs any development, any little thing, there's no reason to throw him out there early, because we already have competent quarterbacks, which is what we didn't have last season, at least for the vast majority of it. There's no pressure to start Trey Lance early at all, unless Ryan Fitzpatrick is going out there throwing 3 interceptions a game and Taylor Heinicke gets hurt. That's like the only scenario Trey Lance will come in the game. But based off of what I saw from Ryan Fitzpatrick the past few years, specifically what I saw from him playing for the Dolphins, I don't really see Trey Lance playing in 2021 if we take him. And one of the things I hate about how like Trey Lance has thrown the ball like way less than a lot of other quarterbacks in this draft, and he's just played less games. But he's in the top 3 in snaps ran out of I formation and single back. A lot of these other guys just ran a whole bunch of shotgun. So I'll take Trey Lance's limited playing time, but a lot of it is I formation and single back over a lot of these guys running these unrealistic offenses just purely out of shotgun the vast majority of the time. And again, he's doing things that even guys like Jared Goff still doesn't do to this day. Audibling at the line of scrimmage, changing protections, IDing potential blitzers, all of that type of stuff. He's already further ahead in that department than most quarterbacks. Haskins to this day could not do that. Jared Goff to this day could not do that. A lot of quarterbacks in the league are pampered and babied by their offensive coordinators. You would not have to do that with Trey Lance. Trey Lance has that command at the line of scrimmage pre-snap that a lot of quarterbacks don't have coming out of college and never get. And also, I prefer Trey Lance at 19 over everybody in this class except for Trevor Lawrence. I understand the hype with Kellen Mond, but like I keep saying, he started for 4 years and hasn't made that much progress from year 1 to year 4. So how do you exactly project him to just be that much better at the NFL level? And this is us isolating traits. I don't care about what teams they played for, what teams they played against. If you're intelligent enough, if you're a good enough film watcher, you can isolate what a guy's doing from what his team is doing around him, what the competition is doing against them. You can isolate those things. You can see accuracy. You can see ball placement. You can see arm strength. You can see agility. You can see athleticism, all of that type of stuff. You can isolate that if you actually for real watch film. Moving on with our second pick in the draft, with the 51st overall pick in the second round, I have us taking linebacker Jamin Davis. And plain and simple, he has the highest ceiling out of all linebackers in this draft. He's just a freak athlete. No character concerns like a Michael Parsons. Also more athletic than Parsons. Not by a mile, but enough. But he also doesn't have the floor of a Parsons, who we know, unless off the field issues happen at the NFL level, Parsons is going to be a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker, like at minimum. Barring any catastrophic injuries, barring any character issues that may make him miss time, he's going to be a great linebacker, period. That's just, Michael Parsons is just too talented not to be. His floor is too high. But Jamin Davis has a higher ceiling. He has great coverage potential. He has great run stopping potential. Just needs to improve in everything mental and technique wise. He has little experience, so of course his instincts and processing speed are a little behind a lot of the linebackers in this class, especially at the top. But just like Trey Lance at 19 years old after his first season, same thing with Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis through 11 starts, I'd prefer him way over everybody else in this class. Maybe except for Michael Parsons. Same thing with Trey Lance with only Trevor Lawrence in comparison. But still, he was using a very limited role, which is one red flag, like never blitzing and only being tasked with zone coverage. So, I mean, like, did the coaches not trust him? Did he show something in practice where it's like we can't even ask him to do that in game? Are those red flags present? But if you look at his traits and think Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera are smarter than Kentucky's coaching staff, then you can bet on his potential. Now, my ceiling comp, I would say Lavonte David, just more athletic. They're the exact same weight, like literally the exact same pounds, 234. But Jamin Davis is also almost 2 inches taller and longer and far more athletic than Lavonte David was coming out of college. He's more explosive, he's faster, he's longer. And remember, the main reason why the Bucs won the Super Bowl. First of all, the Chiefs O-line was depleted. Starting tackles both out. That was like the majority of it in my opinion. But also Lavonte David was locking up Travis Kelce one-on-one all game. He just completely took out Travis Kelce by himself, which allowed them to allocate more resources to stopping Tyreek Hill in the run game and everybody else. And tight ends have been killing us for years. So go and get your Lavonte David in the second round. Next pick, 74th overall in the 3rd round, I have us taking cornerback Ifeatu Melinfonwu. Arguably the best combination of size, explosion, and speed out of this cornerback group in this class. Not very agile though, that's the one knock on him. So don't play him in the slot, but with his athletic profile and traits, his developmental potential is crazy on the outside. May not be ready to start day one, actually I highly doubt it. He may not even be ready to play year one. But with him being 6'2", 205 pounds, with a 78.5 inch wingspan, running a 4.48 with a 41.5 inch vert, you can see how you can become a dominant shutdown corner in the NFL. All of the traits are there, just needs to be developed. And with William Jackson, he would be asked to cover the number 2 corners any given game. And the bigger guys when necessary, just from him being longer and bigger and stronger than the William Jackson. So, like say we play the Buccaneers, William Jackson would normally cover the number 1 receiver any given night, but with Mike Evans being as big as he is, we would send Ifeatu Melinfonwu on Mike Evans and let William Jackson cover Chris Godwin, for example. But other than that, William Jackson would normally be covering the number 1 receiver. I mean, we've seen him lock up Kenny Golladay before, when Kenny Golladay was on the Lions and William Jackson was on the Bengals. And my selling comp for him is basically just slightly less agile Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's that athletic. His profile is very close as far as athleticism. His only problem is just change of direction and agility. That's the thing that he's lacking in comparison to a Jalen Ramsey. But as far as length, strength, explosion, and speed, his ceiling is that. I'm not expecting him to be Jalen Ramsey because there's a lot of development and a lot of technique refinement to be done and a lot of instinctual IQ processing improvement that needs to be done. But if he can reach that, big if, he's literally a Jalen Ramsey type of build. And then that would give us the best cornerback duo in the NFL. And Kendall Fuller in the slot, oh yeah, best DB group in the NFL easily. I mean, just straight no-fly zone type stuff. And then moving on to our second pick in the 3rd round, 82nd overall, I have us taking my boy Tommy Tremble, the tight end. Lots of untapped athleticism and potential. Wasn't used much for some odd reason, and he's not a great inline blocker, but he's good enough and he punishes linebackers and DBs at the 2nd level. I mean, just straight pancaking. You can tell that he loves to punish the guys that are smaller than him when he's blocking them. And he holds his own against the biggest as an inline tight end, but he's not just this guy that's gonna move people off the line of scrimmage like that. He's gonna hold his own. He's way better than a Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis ever were. Like, he's closer to a Travis Kelce and a George Kittle than he is a Jordan Reed and a Vernon Davis, but he's still not Travis Kelce or George Kittle as far as blocking goes. Now, there's room for him to develop that and get better with better technique because the athleticism and strength is there, just needs better technique. But my ceiling comp for him, speaking of George Kittle, is George Kittle. Same exact situation. First of all, let's start there. Had a bad QB and offensive coordinator in college. Team didn't know how to use him and barely used him at all. And when they used him, flashed on tape, but George Kittle was drafted low because of worries of inconsistency and lack of experience. Kittle ended up getting drafted in the 5th round. Now look at him. After he goes to a good offensive coordinator who knows how to actually use his tight ends and scheme them open, and that's Scott Turner for us. Look what Scott Turner did for Logan Thomas. And I feel like Tommy Tremble is a more naturally talented, athletic version of Logan Thomas, but not as polished. But at the same time, he's far more polished than Sammis Reyes. So a great middle. A solid tight end number 2 with the potential to dethrone Logan Thomas as the tight end number 1. While Sammis Reyes is developing, which may take more than a year. So Tommy Tremble, day 1, is our second best tight end. He's better than Marcus Ball. He's better than Sammis Reyes. But at the same time, he has the potential to be better than a Logan Thomas. And in the meanwhile, we have Sammis Reyes developing and hopefully becomes a good to great tight end by 2022 or something. Next pick in the 4th round, 124th overall, have us taking interior offensive lineman Quinn Meinerz. I say interior offensive lineman because you can play him at guard or center. For us, he would play guard. So when we get to his comp, it's going to be guard based. But honestly, if a team needed a center, you could take Quinn Meinerz and plug him at center for your team. But crazy potential to groom. And what's not rare of a small school offensive lineman is that he's not good in zone blocking yet. It's just because he wasn't coached well to do it yet. We can't prove that he can do it based on his tape, but I feel like if you develop him right, you coach him up, he can actually be a good zone blocker. But just right now, don't ask him to zone block. Ask him to just go and get the guy right in front of him and punish him all game. Also, with him coming from a small school, there's worry about his competition, like what were the defensive linemen that he was going against the whole time in college, but he dominated at the Senior Bowl to disprove all of that and lay all of that to rest. Just tell him to block the guy directly in front of him and get ready to see some pancakes. This man rams trees like literally in his yard. So a human is nothing to him. His ceiling comp, I would say he's a stronger Shaq Mason, who is first of all crazy underrated because he's just been playing opposite of Joe Thuney for the past few years. Now that Joe Thuney's gone from the Patriots, he's probably going to get more credit. Shaq Mason and Quinn Meinerz have a very similar play style and RAS from top to bottom. Like their RAS scores are almost identical in almost every stat, every category. The only noticeable difference is their bench reps, where Shaq did 25 and Quinn did 33. That's the only noticeable difference. Other than that, they're almost the exact same. And to really make sure you understand how serious Quinn Meinerz' potential in athleticism is, his RAS score of 9.91 is ranked 11th out of 1,107 guard prospects from 1987 to 2021. That's the type of rare talent he is. Just a lesser known small school guy from the woods of Minnesota. If he somehow makes it to the 4th round, you take him and turn him into a Pro Bowl guard with all pro potential. Again, Shaq Mason, but stronger, more pancakes. Just needs to be technically refined and developed better. Moving on, in the 5th round, 163rd overall, I have us taking safety Hamsah Nasirildeen. And another one of those limited potential guys, but also a lot of versatility. Lots of special teams experience. Let's start there. He has lots of special teams experience and traits as well. So he can contribute there early until he is ready to be the Pro Bowl caliber safety that's built inside of him. Think Derwin James type of versatility and athleticism, but more of a free safety than like a box safety. Derwin James is more of an in the box guy. Hamsah is more of an on the back end guy, but it's the same type of versatility. Hamsah can play in the slot, he can play outside corner, he can make plays in the box, but most importantly, can be groomed into a really rangy free safety, which is a pretty big need for us right now. But even before he reaches that potential, he can contribute early in nickel and dime packages with his ability to play everywhere a DB can play. Again, slot, outside, in the box, on the back end, cover 3, cover 4, cover 2, cover 1, whatever, until he's ready to run cover 1. Once he gets his instincts and his technique and awareness and IQ up to where he can run single high free safety, you can at least use him in all kinds of sub packages. For me, his ceiling comp is Jeremy Chin. With Hamsah, you have to worry a little about his 2 major injuries in back-to-back seasons, but if he can get back to his 2019 form and improve his technique and instincts, he is literally Jeremy Chin with the added ability to man cover, in my opinion. Literally Jeremy Chin type of talent, but you just add man coverage in there. He showed a little something in the Senior Bowl though. He looked better in the Senior Bowl than basically he looked all of 2020, so there's optimism that he is improving and slowly getting back to his 2019 self with time. So I'm willing to bet on that in the 5th round for sure. Again, Jeremy Chin type of talent, but you add man coverage. If he can avoid those injuries, getting him in the 5th round is a home run hit. Moving on to the 7th round, our first 7th round pick, 244th overall, I have us taking wide receiver Cornell Powell, and this is my guy. I mean, this whole draft is a bunch of Rico's guys. That's the purpose of this draft. All of these guys in this mock draft are my guys. That's literally the whole purpose of this dream case scenario. I wouldn't say they're necessarily the best at their respective positions, but we all have our guys. We all have that favorite safety in the class that may not be the best, but he's your guy. He's the one that you're telling everybody, hey, go check out this guy. He can end up being great. You're putting your stamp of approval on this guy. You're writing your signature next to their potential. This whole mock draft is full of my guys that I love, but Cornell Powell is just a really special one because people just are really acting like he doesn't exist. I have a really big chip on my shoulder for Cornell Powell. Not as big as Trey Lance with all of the Trey Lance haters out there, but it's probably second out of this entire list just off of the fact that people are acting like he just doesn't exist. People are acting like for the final 6 games of the season, he didn't literally look like one of the best receivers in college football. Route running, separation skills, hands, jump ball ability, ball tracking, nice release to build on, not great yet, but something to work with, high IQ, yards after catch, blocking, arguably one of the best blockers in this draft class out of the receiving group. I mean, he's the whole package to build on. But the problem is that he just had a really small sample size. Crazy high ceiling, developmental guy that can play any receiver position on the field, but you're just betting on his ability to be consistent long term, which he wasn't in college. Because it wasn't until the last 6 games of last season that he looked like one of the best wide receivers in college. Now, granted, I don't know why Clemson didn't, but it's really not his fault. They just didn't really use him earlier in the season. But the last 6 games of the season, they finally debuted him, they showcased him, and he was going crazy, and he made the most of it. And it's just wild to me that people aren't talking about him. He averaged more than 120 receiving yards over the final 6 games of the season. And one of the sparks was them finally starting the DJ kid over Trevor Lawrence. That one game, that was the game Cornell Powell finally came onto the scene. And then even when Trevor Lawrence came back, I guess after that game, Clemson was like, wait, we've had this talent on our team this whole time, so we need to use him more. And then Trevor Lawrence even started hitting them up. And Trevor Lawrence started the final 5 games, and you saw Cornell Powell show out all 6 of those last games. Again, he averaged 120 receiving yards per game over those final 6 games. He literally looked like one of the best receivers in this entire draft, those final 6 games. We're just talking about the final 6 games alone. He easily looked like a top 5 receiver in this draft. But you have to worry about if he can carry that on to the NFL level, and if he can do that over the course of 16 games rather than just 6. Can he do the equivalent of averaging 120 yards per game at the college level to the NFL level, which is, you know, probably in the 80s. Is he that talented? You know, we'll see though. For me, his ceiling comp is Pierre Garçon, who was drafted in round 6. I have us taking Cornell Powell in round 7, but again, this is a dream case scenario. He has a very close RAS and play style, very close. And he plays bigger than his size, just like Pierre Garçon. He has deceptive on the field speed, just like Pierre Garçon. A very aggressive blocker. He's literally Pierre Garçon type of potential and trajectory. Just like how Tommy Tremble may go later in the draft, just like George Kittle did, Cornell Powell may do the same thing as Pierre Garçon, drafted late, but ends up being a really good receiver. And with us already having Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, you can't even double team Cornell Powell, so I could see him coming here and dominating immediately. I mean, if we're talking talent, I would say he has more talent than the Cam Sims and Kelvin Harmon. And I love Kelvin Harmon, but if you just go look at those last 6 games for Clemson, he literally looks like it would be Terry McLaurin as Batman, Cornell Powell as Robin. And then with my final pick in this mock draft, in the 7th round, 246th overall, I have us taking cornerback Avery Williams, the best special teams player in this draft, easily. Arguably the best special teams talent and potential to come out of the draft in years. Now, he's not a great corner. He's decent in man coverage and zone coverage, but he's not a playmaker. He's small at 5'8", 187, and it shows on his tape. It shows that he's small. He gets beat because of how small he is. But he has good short area quickness, which could be useful in sub packages. And he's a physical and willing tackler, which is good against the run, but is most useful in his special teams impact. His willingness to go get guys to the ground shows up in his special teams coverage. And with him not having great cornerback traits, he was asked about switching to third down catching type of back at his pro day, and even ran receiver and running back drills at his pro day. So that's more than likely what he'd end up doing, switching the running back or wide receiver or like a third down back type of guy. And I'm sure Scott Turner would love to have another secret explosive weapon in his arsenal. But most importantly, he's the best special teams player in this draft, straight up. He returns kicks and punts. He blocks punts. He just creates impactful plays. Great special teams instincts, all of it. He's literally like a secret weapon, like that break glass in case of emergency type of special weapon. In 7 games last year, he had a punt return for touchdown, 2 kick returns for touchdowns, and 2 block punts, both of which went for touchdowns, and one of them he took to the house himself. That's ridiculous special teams production. He's exactly what we've been missing on our special teams. And with Troy Apke, who may not make the 53-man roster, somebody like Avery, who can bring Troy Apke punt coverage impact along with Brandon Banks-like impact in the receiving game, in the punt and kickoff return game, all in one person, one roster spot. That's priceless, period. Now his ceiling comp. Now it's difficult to comp a very rare and specific skill set like his, but I feel like he can literally be Desmond Howard with the ability to block punts added into his created character talent. I mean, he's literally like a character for you just need somebody to make plays on special teams. Now, I doubt he makes it this far in this draft, but again, this is a dream case scenario, and the main point of this mock is to talk about my favorite guys in the draft and mock them to realistic but highly unlikely ranges. And this is one of those right here. That's how it is for all of them. But I feel like, honestly, this Avery Williams pick, 246th overall, is probably the biggest reach in this draft. I feel like it's him and then Trey Lance second, as far as like, I highly doubt they make it to the pick that I picked them at. Everybody else, more likely, but still not very likely. Now let's get to my 5 after analysis main points to basically summarize this mock. The first one, again, this is a mock draft with the goal of showing some of my favorite players in the draft, so it's not very probable, but it's also not super unrealistic. We've seen crazier things happen before, but at the same time, Trevor Lawrence at 19, Kyle Pitts in the second round, let alone 19, Penei Sewell in the third, like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm not oblivious to how the draft works, but again, this is if everything goes exactly how I would want it to go. My next mock draft is based on what Washington wants, rumors, reports, who they're interested in, guys that they've met with, and not even just once, but a lot of the time. That's what the next one's going to be based on. This video was based on who I want and the guys that I love. This mock draft would be an 11 out of 10 for me if this were to really happen. Anything better than this is unrealistic, and anything less than this is a 10 out of 10 at best. Point number 2, I'm big on special teams. That's why I'm so hype about Avery Williams. They dramatically affect field position, they change momentum, they win games. We already have the GOAT and Tressway on punts, but with Trey Apke likely not making the roster like I spoke about, we need some special teams coverage boost, and most importantly, we need just anybody, somebody that can flip field positioning in the return game. Haven't had a dependable guy like that since probably like Brandon Banks. And again, Avery Williams can do the Brandon Banks of returning and the Trey Apke of punt coverage and blocking punts and field goal kicks. That's just who he is. He brings 2 people worth of impact in one roster spot. I mean, that's literally a secret weapon. That's the type of guy that Bill Belichick randomly drafts, and then people are like, who is that? Like, why did he take him? And then out of nowhere, he's having this crazy impact, and people are like, oh, here goes Bill Belichick being a genius again, finding these random guys that are very great at specific things with very specific talents and only asking them to do those very specific things. That's what smart coordinators and coaches do. Number 3, with us solving most of our problems and weaknesses before we even got to the draft through free agency, we can generally go best player available throughout this draft. And luckily for me, in this dream case scenario, our 3 biggest needs, franchise quarterback, linebacker, and tight end number 2, are handled within the first 3 rounds with best player strategy anyway. It's a win-win every way you look at it. And with this roster, we are not only dangerous in 2021, but we are also set up to be Super Bowl contenders 2022 and beyond. Point number 4, only player with a real injury history is Hamsah. So don't be in the comment section talking about him out here drafting a whole bunch of injury prone players. Hamsah is the only one with a real injury history, but he showed at the Senior Bowl that he is slowly but surely getting back to how he was pre-injury. Still an injury risk, not going to be oblivious to it, but can he stay healthy going forward? Because he never sustained a notable injury until 2019, the best season of his college career. And I'm willing to take a chance on him not being injury prone. Because look at my boy Nick Chubb, Georgia Bulldog. You already know. One of the best running backs in the NFL. And even though he isn't as great and as fast as he was before his 2 severe leg injuries, just like Hamsah, he's still dominating and not known as an injury prone player. I believe Hamsah can basically be the safety equivalent of that. And then other than Hamsah, literally none of these other players are the Bryce Love experiment. Hamsah is the only guy that I have us mock taken with a real injury history. But again, we've seen in the Senior Bowl that he's starting to show progress and look like his old self. So as long as he can stay healthy, we're good. I would definitely say he gives me more hope to contribute and to be worth his draft pick than a Bryce Love did, as far as a floor goes. And number 5, having this much talent on a rookie deal is how you win Super Bowls, point blank period. This draft is ridiculous. Again, that's why it's a dream case scenario. Doubt it happens, but again, it's not impossible. But this is the type of rookie haul that sets you up to be a Super Bowl contender year in, year out. So I would love for this to happen. Man, I don't know what I got to do, if I got to sacrifice a GOAT to make it happen, but we got to make it happen. But yeah, man, that's the end of this mock draft. Please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, please subscribe. If you haven't, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification every time I release a mock draft like this one. I have one more to go. Again, this was my dream case scenario. The next one will be the most realistic mock draft possible. My most realistic one is going to be based on all of the information we've gathered so far. I have my reference, the PDF file that y'all have access to, where it's like all of the players we met with, who were reportedly interested in, who were rumored interested in, things like that. So that mock draft is going to be based on who I most realistically feel like we will draft, and that will include some undrafted free agents, because there's a lot of guys they're interested in who may go undrafted, and I can easily see us picking them up after the draft. So this is going to be my best attempt to get as many right as possible. These other mock drafts were more so what I would do in certain situations. This 5th and final mock draft coming up is me trying to get as many correct as possible. So that's me challenging myself. And of course, stay tuned for all of the film sessions before and after the draft. Just because the draft happens doesn't mean I have to stop doing film sessions. Actually, that means I have to do more, because I got to work on some for our rookie class. And I still have to do more film sessions for like maybe an Adam Humphries or Ryan Fitzpatrick if we get there. Or if we go and sign like a Trey Boston or Malik Hooker after the draft, I'm going to have to do film sessions on that. So stay tuned for all of that. Of course, stay tuned for all of my live streams every Friday 8 to 10 p.m. every Sunday for a couple of hours, like in the afternoon or evening. And man, I really appreciate all of the support. Everybody that pulls up to every video, every live stream, leaves a like, shares it out to everybody, to add more members to the Street Scores family. And of course, big shouts out to everybody that donates. Man, really appreciate y'all. Huge shout out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Definitely get in the comment section and let me know how you feel about this mock draft. Most importantly, get in the comment section and let me know who your guys are. I want to know who are some of y'all guys, just like how I have Cornell Powell, Quinn Meinerz, Hamsah Nasirildeen, Avery Williams, Quinn Meinerz, Tommy Tremble, Ifeatu Melinfonwu, Jamin Davis, Trey Lance, guys that I just love. Those are just like my guys. I'm putting my name on the fact that they'll be great, or at least have the potential to. Let me know some of those guys from y'all. It doesn't even have to be in the form of a mock draft. Just list them out, because with the draft coming up soon, I may have time to check out a few of those guys so I can get hip, because I don't know everybody. I can't keep up with everybody. Don't have enough time in the day. So if y'all have some guys y'all can put me on to, definitely let me know. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.